All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. Been turning out some stove covers today, wide open. Just delivered 7 stove covers. Got some room to work in the shop. Don't have any jobs on the board to finish today. Got invoices sent out, and life is good right now. So I have created myself a bit of a tobacco here at the shack. Many of you may know I've got the Acer P20. I got it in. I went ahead because it wouldn't fit in my enclosure anyway. It was too big. I went ahead and expanded it and put the longer extensions on it. And so now I have to have an enclosure capable of holding this machine. I've also got the mechanical base that I'm going to be putting in there to raise and lower the honeycomb. So this is going to be a major undertaking. But during the process of trying to plan this, I have figured out that it's time for this corner of the Clack Shack to get a makeover. The table that's in there has been in here for years and years. And when it was built, it was not built for what it's being used for. So we're going to demo it and redo it and make it better. So we'll have a practical workspace once we're done. So if that's something you're interested in, guys, stick around. I'll be right back. All right, so the whole thing in a nutshell is, guys, this bench that's in here, this old work table, I actually got this off side of the road. A company here in town had this thing, and they had it in a garage area, and they were using it to work, and they decided they didn't need it anymore, so they threw it out by the side of the road. I happened to be driving by with my pickup truck, saw it, talked to them, and they're like, you know, that's garbage. We're waiting on the litter truck to come pick it up. And so I asked if I could have it. They agreed. This thing's been in here for, I don't know, close to 20 years now, probably. 15 years, I would guess. So as the Clack Shack has evolved, this guy just kind of stayed here. I added some drawers to it once upon a time, did a little bit of other work to it, but it was never really built for what I do. And now that I'm into the lasers, I've got to have a enclosure that's going to be a roughly 4 foot long. So this enclosure is, you know, everything, even my duct work, it's about 30 inches. So that means that my enclosure is going to come all the way down to about here. And then if I add duct work and stuff to it, like I did this one, you know, add another 6 or 8 inches to over here. Still not figured out how I'm going to do that exactly, but in order to accommodate a 48-inch enclosure, this whole area has to change. I'm going to try to leave this little bench alone because it works, and let's face it, I don't want to tear the whole shop apart and have to rebuild it. So I'm just going to start where this table is this way. I'm going to demo all that, get it out of here. I've got a buddy of mine who's going to be taking custody of the other enclosure here, and we'll be getting it over to his house sometime in the next week or two maybe. And I'm going to be building my new enclosure here. But because of the design and the way I'm going to build it, I'm actually going to drop this counter down where the enclosure is going to go. And then I'm going to bring it back up over here and just have a little small countertop over here. I've got shelving hooked to this table. It's going to be a job. So I'm not going to make you watch the demo, but I got my little GoPro set up. I'm going to do a little time-lapse video. And I'm fixing to have to start taking this stuff apart and getting it out of here so that I can go back with the new shelving cabinet, work table, whatever you want to call it. And that's going to be quite the operation. So I went and got the lumber to go back with it and get it put back together. I already had some lumber. Of course, I have my own sawmilled lumber that I can use as well. So hopefully I'll have enough lumber, screws, that kind of thing to get this thing done tonight and without having to stay up all night. So let's get to work, guys. All right, guys, I have completely tore out the old counter that was in here, and I'm going back. I've got everything moved. I got all my tools moved off the wall, and I got me one runner put up here so that I can use it to create the next countertop. The only thing is that the way I've decided to build my enclosure, the enclosure is actually going to be hanging down a little bit below the top of the cabinet. So it's going to be lower than the countertop height. So I'm just I've got that there because I have an air line and everything here, and I need something to kind of work off of there to frame everything out. I did have a little bit of a mishap. I had to break out my plumbing box and fix my air line, and I've got the air compressor charging back up now, but I had forgot that I had it attached to the other table when I slid it out. So, and PVC just breaks really easy when it's cool. So, but I've got the line up, I've got everything level, and I want to show you guys. This is the nicest level that I've got in the shop here, guys. That right there makes work a lot easier. I've used this on a lot of shelves that I do. I got a little tripod that I put it on, and you can rotate the tripod and actually tell, you know, where everything is and make sure everything is in alignment just by simply rotating the side of the tripod. And it's pretty handy. You can't really see the other counter from where you are, but it's lining, that counter is perfectly lined with the rest of them. Because I've built that counter to the left there when I first got into lasers. So that counter is right. This one over here is the one that I've been having to do some work on. But as you can see, I've got my little green level line right here. I've got it just barely missing the top of that 2x4 so that I know that that's the bottom of my countertop right there. But if you're putting up board and batten, or like the boards that are on the wall, or if you're putting up something like that, guys, these things are handy. And I've had a lot of people ask me about it. So if you're interested, I will put a link in the description down below to where I got this guy. I use it primarily to level the bunks on my sawmill. I usually go up there this time of night, and it makes it easy to level all the bunks on the mill without having to get out a 8-foot level and do it that way. But I'm gonna call it a night for tonight, go in and get cleaned up and maybe get some supper. But I've got myself to a good starting point. I got the other table demoed. I am gonna, however, I'm gonna keep part of it and take it up to the sawmill, and I'm gonna use it as kind of my sharpening table up at the sawmill. So I think that'll benefit me. If not, it'll wind up in the bonfire somewhere, but there's one section that's still intact. I cut it in half to just make it easier to get out from in here. And so I'm gonna try to recycle what I can of that. But tomorrow, guys, I'm gonna be in here. I'm gonna be building back the cabinets, and I'm gonna be incorporating the new enclosure in with the cabinets. 48 inches is gonna put me coming to about right here. My plan is to try to drop this thing down so that the laser is about this level so that I can have easy access into the work area for the laser. But I've got to have about 12 inches below the laser to be able to raise the bed and lower the bed. So this section here, the enclosure itself, is going to kind of be dropped down in this hole. I'm figuring maybe a foot or so that the bottom of the enclosure will actually be in this area. It's going to be sticking out just a little bit further than what I normally would have, and I think I'm going to wind up having to pipe my exhaust and go straight out through here. I may even try to put the fan inside the enclosure. Not sure yet. I'm gonna have to get me a piece of cardboard or something cut to the size of the enclosure, just kind of see how it looks and see which way I want to go with that. But this is going to be, like I said, a continuation of the countertop that I already have here. But on this side, I'm going to try to put a little more storage in there. I actually had a couple of plugs that were hidden that I couldn't get to, and I'm going to try to make shelving and so forth so that I can actually get in there to them. I'm going to try to build me a rack in there for wood storage, because with the bigger machine, I'm not going to be using 16 by 16s anymore. I'm going to stretch that on up to probably 32s or so. And so I'm going to try to build me a little shelf directly under the machine to store those large pieces of Luan. And I did go today and pick up a bunch of materials. So I've got plenty of Luan to cut up once I get this built and get the laser fired up. So anyway, I'll catch you guys tomorrow when we resume building the workbench / enclosure. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Have a good day.